How about a 20? How's that?
That work, you crit. You slice right through this thing, and it begins to instantly dissolve. There's a gibbering pile on the floor.
Suck on that, snot bucket.
The one behind you will come at you with a 12. It does hit your AC. Another good hit to the back. You are down to 70. Guard readies a crossbow with an 11 and happens to take a good shot at the bartender right through the head. Flounders backwards, but no effect. Magicist will try and cast some sort of levitation spell. She rolls a nat 1, to which she is floundering through her little spell book. Innkeeper is just trying to keep her crap together. Rolls a 10 to try and stay away from everything. The dwarf will go against the bartender. He rolls an 18. With this knife, and will try to shank it right in the head, like cut it straight down, kind of like you did. Peels its head open. You do not see any essence.
Well, I'm going to do a little spin with my knife, kind of like Link. I'm going to go right behind me.
You want to double slash this simulacrum.
Exactly.
Roll it. Roll d20 twice.
How about a 20 and
yep.
A 1?
No. Your footing is off, so you only hit with 1, but you happen to hit right about the chest region, to which you get a nice gash across the torso, to which you do see the essence you have nicked into. This creature backs away as if obviously hurt. But it will try and retaliate with a long shot as an arm appendage, blobulous form, rockets against you with a 14 and pushes you backwards with a lot of force right almost into the dwarf himself, taking you down to 60. The dwarf says, "What's the big idea?" as he kind of shoves you off of him. The bartender will roll back with a nat 1. The dwarf will jump out of the way. Guard will ready another crossbow with a 10 and strike this bartender right in the chestial region. No effect. Just volleys off of him. Magicist rolls a 15 and levitates these two frozen simulacrum up in the air. We'll try to slam it down as hard as she can. Rolls a 14. The victim, the frail one, shatters into icy pieces and is no more.
Since I got pushed out of arm shot of this other one, I want to throw one of the knives at the chest area where I saw the
roll orb. To throw it.
Roll to throw, 17.
Alright. Okay, and where were you aiming? Chest?
Yeah, that chest area where I saw the focus.
How strong do you think you are? Roll for strength.
12.
Well, I will give it to you. This knife goes a good portion right into the intended target, skewering this little essence, and this gibbering mound begins to flounder and dissolve to the floor with your knife in it.
Excellent. It's dead, right? Or dying?
You believe so. The dwarf will take another take another stab at this bartender, unsure of wherever its essence is at, and just stab it once more. It's a good stab to it. The guard readies one more bow, a good 17, gets another shot off. This thing has arrows in it and stab wounds, but it is still going. The Magicist will try to slam this other frozen simulacrum against the far wall. It rolls an 11, not good enough. It tries to hurl it over her head. It lands just overside of her, pretty much around your area, around where the Doctor Simulacrum was. One of its legs seems to break off, but it seems to try and unfreeze itself, like it is slowly coming to.
I want to quickly try and curb stomp this.
Alright, Isabella has taken refuge under the bar, still shrieking. Roll to curb stomp. I'll give you advantage.
How about 17?
17. Alright, you give it a good stomp, you break off another little appendage, but this thing is not too phased.
Oh, come on!
Alright, the bartender simulacrum will give a good... oh, crap, rolls a d20. And give a good slice to this dwarf. bringing him down to 80. The simulacrum in front of you rolls a 19 against you, and will rocket a nice little skewering slash against you. Since it is up close and personal, you are down to about 45. You are not doing so hot right now.
And I still have that frozen one at my feet.
That's the one that just slashed you.
Oh, that one?
Yes.
Okay.
When I say frozen, it's not encapsulated in ice. It's just like,
okay.
Closed in frost, so to speak.
Slightly solidified.
Yes, the dwarf will retaliate once more against this guy who just wrecked him upside the face with an 11. A good stab to a little bit lower of the chest region exposes his essence. The guard readies one more bow. Takes a aim at the one at your feet. With a 15. Skewers right through its head region, but does not seem to be too effective. Finding these essences seems to be your issues now. The Magicist will also run over and try to slam it once more as it is somewhat solidified. Rolls a 15. She picks it up and slams it down. It breaks off into even smaller pieces, but it is still a good sizable mound that is not so much frozen anymore.
I want to see if I can get everyone... How heavy are the tables in this bar?
You wouldn't imagine too heavy for just the general tables, as the guard, even though he's of some large stature, tipped over the entire bar table itself.
Would we be able, if we worked together, use the table to crush this thing in front of me?
Certainly. You believe that this is Of course, this is a gelatinous monster. You are unsure unless you can specifically crush the essence that you would probably just mash it like a pancake.
Well, if I'm able to mash enough of it, we should be able to find the essence.
Possibly.
The area of effect.
You believe so?
I ask for assistance with the table. Let's crush it like a bug!
The Magicist is across the room, but she believes she can help you with her levitating powers.
I rolled a 16 on my end.
I rolled a 13. That is good enough. She essentially tries to use her levitation powers to help you lift this table. You lift it up over top of your head. Basically, you're holding onto the rim of it, with the flat side facing your forward.
With everything I've got and a little bit of gravity, I swing it downward.
You try to mash this creature. You give it a good smash. This thing oozes out from the sides of the tables. But it still moves to some extent. You are not quite sure if this thing is dead yet. Oh, let's see. This other simulacrum will go against the dwarf with a 10. It just barely nicks him. But good enough, as he is still all up in his grill. Down to 70. He will retaliate with an 18. One more good stab to the shoulder-ish region. And this thing starts to flounder. He believes he has found the essence. The guard will ready the last available arrow he can find. A lousy 8, and miss completely, and it sticks into the opposing wall of the New Bastion Inn. Here's your go again.
So we're not certain that the body in front of me is dead yet, right?
It's still underneath the table. You're not sure if it's squashed or not, and you've still got this one that they've just found the essence on.
Well, I'm certain the dwarf has that, so I leap up and stomp on the table.
You stomp on the table. More of it oozes out the sides of the tables. The Magicist will tell you to get off. She rolls unfortunately a 7, which is not good enough. She wants to try to lift the table up and squash it again. She didn't get off to you quick enough, so half of the table lifts up and kind of dumps you off of the table.
Oh, fun.
You fall on
Hello,
your...
concussion.
No, you fall to your butt. But you are not prone. The dwarf will roll an 11 to try and stab this thing in the shoulder once more. One good stab, and this thing is now smoldering to the floor. You now have the one left under the table is the last one you are aware of. And since you are right next to it, it will try and grab you with a hardy 19. This thing will try to enclose you. Would you like to try and contest me to struggle?
I'll give it a shot.
Would you like to contest, or 50-50, or what would you like to contest?
Let's 50-50 it.
Okay. Heads you get free, tails you get enclosed. What would you like me to flip top?
Tails up.
Tails up. Alright, heads, this thing does not grab you. You happen to squabble away as quickly as you can. The Magus will try once more with a 19. She happens to lift this table, but the dwarf has other ideas and wants to stomp on the table with a 9, and they kind of collide, sending the table to one side and the dwarf on his butt. The guard is trying to figure out what to do.
Is there any well, now that the table is not actually on the thing anymore, is there any indication as to where the essence is?
It is very pancake-like. You can see where there's a nice little table indentation of it. You see kind of a few little mounds where you would imagine the essence is. And you can, vaguely tell that this thing is still somewhat formed like it was a person. It is not just a solid color.
Might be.
You want to stab one of the mounds? Go for it. Roll to see if you pick the right one.
I got 17.
Alright. You jab with your knife as hard as you can into the first mound closest to you. It happens to shriek, but you are just slightly off, but you believe you have found it.
I want to try and slide my knife through it.
Alright, this thing rolls a 16, and since you are practically on top of it, it is all up in your grill. This thing is enclosing around you very fast.
Well, then I better roll to see if I can slide the knife through it.
At this point, the guard rushes over to try and just maybe possibly rip this thing across or off of you. The magicist will try to pick the table up once more with a 17. She picks the table up. The dwarf will get to his feet, and that's about it.
I rolled a slide and I got a 20.
You roll a crit. You rip this knife with all of your worth as this thing is enclosing around you. This thing is like all up in your grill, in your face. You are about to be dissolved like an amoeba eating a paramecium. You pull as much as you can, and this thing rips a nice slice open as a little pool of steam bellows out, and this thing falls limp. Everything is quiet. Table falls to the floor. The magicist looks onwards as everyone just looks at each other like, what the heck just happened?
I just look at everyone and say, slimy, but satisfying.
It is morning. Sunlight streams through the windows. There is a dead bartender with a grieving innkeeper over top of him. There is a dwarf who is unsure of what just happened. A royal guard of Homestead that is unsure anyone will believe this. And a magicist who's probably thinking about the same. And several piles of just jelly writhing on the floor. Does anyone have any clue who, what, or why the magicist says? No one says a word.
All I've gathered is that you need to run a special on dessert tonight.
I don't think it's time to make jokes, the guard says, still a little bit shaken.
I can't help it, it's what I do. On a serious note, though, something sent these gelatinous creatures for someone. Now, they've killed the butcher. May not have been who they were actually after. They've killed the poor bartender.
The guard corrects you. The butcher was a simulacrum. There was no butcher, it seems. The bartender is the only real corpse we have.
True. In all the confusion, I forgot. I want to ask you, Miss Isabella, do you have anyone against your who want your heads?
Through her tears and her shock, she happens to say, there is no one that she can think of. She says, we have been a good duo here at the inn, and we have had nothing but a good reputation. We have not met any unwelcome visitors or anyone who would want to cross us that we can think of.
exceptionally strange occurrence. Do you have
Guard.
any artifacts of any nature in your inn?
The innkeeper says, nothing that I can think of. We don't normally store things. We have a lost and found, which we turn into the local, militia, the guard's house, to which the guard does give a nodding agree. To which you look down and see that the freshly smashed simulacrum you were standing right in front of, that you had just killed, is very faintly trying to, inchworm its way towards the dwarf. You all kind of take a step away from it. The dwarf says, well, regardless if someone sent these things after someone, how do we not know that these things were independent? How do we know what it's after? As this feebly jello squish is still inching its way towards the dwarf. The Magus
I step on
says,
it.
well, I think it's trying to go after you at the moment. You plant a good foot into it. It seems reactive as you would step on a bowl of jello.
Can I ask you one thing? I direct my attention to the dwarf. What does that tattoo mean?
You now notices that his sleeve has been rolled up and you can see that tattoo. He says, well, I am of a clan, I am of a guild, but unfortunately I am not at liberty to say.
Fair enough, but
At
no,
this point, the guard and the Maguses look over at him, and the guard says, I inquire, sir. Simon, tell us. The Magus kind of half yells, after all this, you're not going to tell us?
I just point out, what you want to keep secret is fine, but just know that the only difference between any of us and you is that you're part of this guild. And because of whatever it is you're keeping secret, we were all in danger tonight. I do believe that it is fair enough that you at least inform us as to why they were after you.
The dwarf tells you, our guild is into some deep findings. We run an excavation clan and we scour old ruins for treasures of riches, as you'd expect. We may have recently come across an artifact. He pauses. The guard says, continue. As he also plants a foot into this squirming jello that's still trying to inch its way towards the dwarf. We've found we don't know what it is. We can't we've never we don't believe we've seen anything like this in such our history. The Magus says, well, can't you describe it to us? The dwarf says, well, it's nothing. It's stupid.
It's stupid enough to kill for?
It's a rock, okay? It's just a blue rock, he says. The guard and the Magus look at him as if, a rock, okay? They have no clue. Dwarf says, we found a rock in these forsaken lands that have not been known to any creature for thousands of years, but just predominantly, as you can find, there was just this little blue rock sitting there. Gave off some static. That's it. We haven't been able to find anything else on it.
Well, I suggest strongly that you go back to your guild and warn them of what just happened here tonight. Whatever this stone is, it's dangerous, and there are a lot of people after it.
I
A lot of
suppose
powerful
so. He
people.
reaches in his pocket and actually produces the exact stone he speaks of and holds it out to the guard. Then I suppose it would be better in your keeping, he says as he holds it out for the guard to take. The guard gives it a once over and asks the Magus, "Can you look at it?" He says the Magus gives it a once over and kind of holds a hand over top of it. "I see nothing negative here," the Magus says. To which the guard takes the rock and pockets it. We'll have the local council discuss this. We will let you off with a warning, dwarf, as though we could fine you for many things and also probably put you away for quite some time for this. This would probably qualify just about down to attempted murder. But
Or accessory, at least.
tell your guild that they best not meddle with things they are unfamiliar with without proper observation and the proper artillery and overwatchers, the guard says with a stern, commanding voice.
One last thing before you go. Have you seen my knives?
All three of them give you a look and kind of look haphazardly around the room at the mess that has all transpired. Tell you, no, I haven't seen anything, no.
Fair enough. Just trying to add a little levity without the, morbid humor.
The guard goes over to comfort the innkeeper and inform her that he will be back with a small contingency before long to help clean up and straighten up the place as well. Majesty says she will be glad to help, but she will be heading back to her store. The dwarf kind of just heads out the door, not saying much to anybody. Very forlorn look to him.
Isabella, the least I can do is lend a hand in cleaning up. I did nothing to help this situation, so it's the least I can do.
She expresses her thanks, but says it will. She will not burden you with it, as the guards will do plenty of their fair share. As you kind of step outside for a moment to realize, whoa, that just happened. You spot Simon kind of just not even walking down the road, but he's just, you can tell he's contemplating very heavily about everything that's just transpired and what all the words have been said to him. He happens to notice you and says, "Hey, I want to apologize, really. I know some things can happen, and I just want to apologize. I don't know how I could make this up to you. I am a noble dwarf, but I am not bringing much honor to my family at this point, or at least my clan at all."
I just nod my head and hold out my hand. Just be careful from now on.
He gives you one more petty look and then graciously takes your hand, gives you a firm handshake, and
I slip his knife back into his hand.
He gives you an uncertainty look and says, "After all that?"
After all that, I'm a thief.
"You,
It's not
sir,
your
are
fault.
no thief," he says. "You are a rogue," as he gives a kind of a half smile to you. He says, "Well, what are you off to now? Where's your next stop?"
Well, pretty much just whatever happens next. I kind of just roll with whatever happens.
Fair enough. Do you? There's not much I can offer you, but do you happen to have any, well, monetary issues? I know a good accountant.
Well, as of right now, I have no funds. But I will keep that in mind.
So it sounds like you've got some monetary issues. He gives a laugh to you.
Indeed, I do.
You know, I know someone who could possibly help you out, he says as he kind of puts arm around you, kind of buddying up to you now. Would you maybe like to go get a drink sometime where we're not trying to point fingers at each other?
I'd like that very much.
As you two walk off into the morning of the busy streets of Homestead. So, a very long and daunting campaign. I'm very sorry that was a little bit slow, but how did you like that?
I actually absolutely loved it, although the mystery went nowhere near where I thought it was going.
Alright. Well, until
You
next
totally
time,
threw me for a
viewers, I believe that will be it. Once again, I have been your Dungeon Master, and this has been your Half-Elf.
Pleasure.